Have you ever felt your self-worth crumble when your children start to ignore you, dismiss your advice, or even treat you as if you were a burden? The need for respect and recognition is the foundation for nurturing self-esteem and happiness. When those you love most, your children, no longer show you respect, the pain is not only emotional, but also takes away the sense of safety and meaning in your life. Welcome to Elderly Wisdom Stories, where we share practical solutions to help parents regain their rightful place as loved and respected by their children. In today's video, we will explore 6 crucial actions to take when your children no longer offer you the respect they once did. Please be patient and stay with us until the end, as we will share an important secret to help you strengthen family relationships sustainably and profoundly. Now, let's not wait any longer. We will start right away with Action 1. Stop seeking validation. First and foremost, you need to recognize that the approval of your children is not a measure of your self-worth. Many parents, especially when their children grow up, often fall into the habit of nodding to every request, agreeing to change plans, setting aside personal preferences, or even doing things they don't want to do just to keep the peace and hoping that their children will eventually appreciate them. However, the reality is quite the opposite. The more you try to please, the more likely you are to be taken for granted. Instead, respect stems from self-respect. When you set boundaries and take care of your own needs, your children will begin to see you as an independent person with your own decisions and perspectives. Take the example of Susan, a mother who used to always defer to her children, from choosing where to eat to arranging vacation schedules. Initially, Susan believed that her accommodating nature would bring the family together, but in return, she only received indifference and sometimes even more demands. It wasn't until Susan courageously said no for the first time, standing firm on her time and her involvement in volunteer work, that her children began to realize that their mother was not always available to serve. She had her own life and values. Next, setting clear boundaries is the first step in stopping the chase for approval. Instead of immediately fulfilling every request, parents should pause, reflect, and have an open conversation with their children about why they cannot meet their demands. For example, if your child asks for help with moving things while you already have plans with friends, you could say, "I would love to help, but I promised my friends I would attend our monthly gathering today. Let's pick another day to move things together." With this response, you show respect for your commitment while gracefully maintaining your boundaries. Finally, when you stop chasing approval, your relationship with your children will shift in a positive direction. When they no longer see your sacrifices as something they can take for granted, they will begin to ask, "Why is Mom so firm about this?" As a result, they will proactively learn more about your likes, limits, and will come to respect your time and opinions more. Above all, you will experience true happiness when you no longer lose yourself to please others. By stopping the chase for approval, you not only restore an equal relationship with your children, but also send a clear message. I respect myself first, and I expect to receive the respect I deserve. When self-respect is prioritized, you no longer need to beg for approval from anyone, because your children will naturally understand that the ones who brought them into this world deserve respect. When you have taken the first step of stopping the chase for approval and started to assert your value, the next thing to do is to lead by example instead of arguing. Instead of responding harshly whenever your children interrupt or display disrespect, remain calm, firm, and show them the principles of polite behavior through your actions. Mr. David had once fallen into a vicious cycle. Every time his children argued, he would respond harshly, leading to an increasingly tense relationship and widening the gap between parents and children. However, when he realized that this was like pouring more oil onto the fire, he decided to change how he reacted. Specifically, before each potential argument, Mr. David began to take deep breaths to stay calm and pause for a moment before speaking. When his children interrupted or dismissed his opinion, instead of arguing, he truly listened to let them feel that their opinions were respected, and then responded with short, calm sentences, not rushing to win the argument. For example, if a child said, "You don't understand anything," he would nod and say, "I understand you're upset. I'm listening, and we'll think it over." Afterward, he chose to remain silent instead of replying immediately, allowing the tension to subside. Through leading by mature actions rather than attacking with words, Mr. David was able to restore his position as a strong father figure. His children gradually realized that he was not reacting emotionally and was always calm, and they began to adjust their behavior, lowering their tone of voice, agreeing to listen to differing opinions before responding. As a result, family conversations became more constructive, and the children began to actively seek his opinion and respect his views. Leading by action not only helped avoid the exhausting cycle of arguments, but also established a model of confidence and composure. When children see that their parents always maintain their composure in the face of emotional challenges, they learn to behave more respectfully, and by leading by example, you will inspire your children to automatically adjust their attitudes, which in turn will lead to a more harmonious and respectful family relationship. After you've stopped arguing and started leading by example with composure, the next step is to cut emotional dependency, a crucial strategy to reestablish authority in the relationship. This is because when parents rely solely on calls, compliments, or attention from their children to feel loved, the power in the relationship unintentionally shifts to the children. This not only makes parents emotionally hungry, but also creates invisible pressure on the children, causing them to become indifferent or even avoidant. The case of Mrs. Linda is a prime example. As her children became busier with work and their own families, she often called multiple times a day, hoping to find comfort from the voice on the other end. Initially, the children tried to respond, but over time, they became more irritated, even giving brief and curt replies. Realizing this, Mrs. Linda decided to change her approach. Instead of waiting and calling repeatedly, she began to focus on her interests, joining a morning walking club, learning oil painting on Saturday afternoons, and regularly planning short trips with her peers. By actively building a rich and fulfilling personal life, her children no longer felt that she was emotionally starved. On the contrary, they started to admire her youthful energy and independence. As a result, the attention from her children was restored voluntarily and sincerely. They began to inquire about her walking experiences, admire her new paintings, and even invite her to join trips. The reason was not out of obligation, but because Mrs. Linda had shown that she was not just the woman waiting for a call, but an individual with value, passions, and someone who deserved appropriate affection. Therefore, action is not simply about cutting the emotional link with your children. It is about reaffirming your position. When you stop relying entirely on your children for joy or comfort, they will realize that you have a life of your own, worthy of respect. As a result, they will proactively show more care, respect, and appreciation for you because you are no longer hungry for affection, but are living fully and contentedly. Next, to strengthen your position and help your children understand that you do not tolerate disrespectful behavior, it is crucial to establish and maintain clear boundaries in communication. Initially, Mr. Michael remained silent when his son interrupted or spoke rudely, hoping that this behavior was just temporary. However, this silence gradually led him to lose his voice in the family as his son began to think that interrupting his father was perfectly normal. Therefore, when his son was disrespectful again, Mr. Michael changed his approach. Instead of remaining silent or retaliating with harsh words, he decisively stated, "You are not allowed to interrupt me. If you cannot listen, I will not continue this conversation." This short but firm warning sent the message that he would not accept rude behavior and created an opportunity for his son to recognize his mistake and adjust his attitude. Additionally, every time a boundary was crossed, parents should calmly but firmly remind their children of the importance of respect while also remembering to praise them where they respect that boundary. For example, when his son started listening attentively and speaking politely, Mr. Michael said, "I'm very happy you listened to everything I had to say." The combination of clear expectations and positive reinforcement helped reinforce the right behavior while maintaining the motivation for his son to continue improving. Finally, setting boundaries does not mean severing the relationship, but is a way to protect the relationship, which is built on mutual respect. When children understand that all conversations take place within the framework of politeness, they will naturally adjust their attitudes to maintain a warm family atmosphere. By establishing and maintaining boundaries, not only will you restore your voice, but you will also help your children learn an important lesson on respectful communication and build lasting affection. Following the establishment of boundaries, the fifth thing parents need to remember is to stop giving unconditionally when it is not appreciated. When you continuously sacrifice time, money, and effort to help your children and grandchildren without receiving gratitude in return, your kindness will gradually be seen as something taken for granted. Mr. Bryan was once the epitome of devotion. He supported his son with a business loan, helped his granddaughter with her thesis, and even cleaned the house when his children were busy. However, when Mr. Bryan began experiencing difficulty moving due to age, the table he had always set for his children and grandchildren no longer had a place for him, as they were always too busy with their affairs. Eventually, Mr. Bryan realized he needed to change his behavior. Instead of continuing to give unconditionally, he started to refuse to help if his children and grandchildren did not show gratitude or respect. For example, when his son asked for help organizing paperwork without thanking him for the help he had provided in the past, Mr. Bryan quietly returned the business card with a gentle reminder, "I am happy to help you, but I also need gratitude." Initially, his son was surprised and somewhat annoyed. However, just a few days later, he called to express gratitude and took the time to take Mr. Bryan for a medical checkup. Finally, stopping unconditional giving when not appreciated does not make you selfish, but rather serves as a way to protect your self-worth. When you give conditionally, when and only when gratitude is shown, your children and grandchildren will learn to appreciate each act of kindness and see it as a valuable gift rather than a given. This approach ensures that family relationships become more balanced, based on both love and respect, ultimately helping parents regain the position of being admired and cherished. After stopping the practice of giving unconditionally, the final and crucial step in changing how your children view you is to build an independent life outside of them. When all your activities and focus revolve solely around your children and grandchildren, they may easily start to see you as a source of emotional support or assistance, rather than an individual with passions and interests of your own. Take the example of Mrs. Elizabeth. After the loss of her husband, she devoted all her time to her children, doing housework, cooking, and advising on their decisions. Initially, her children were busy, but still expressed concern and care. However, after a few months, as they became more preoccupied with their work and their own families, her presence gradually became taken for granted, leaving Mrs. Elizabeth feeling lonely and sometimes neglected. Without hesitation, she decided to make a change. She joined the local book club, participated in cultural discussion groups, and then connected with a group of friends her age to schedule short trips every month. She didn't stop there. She even courageously started a small business offering craft workshops for the community. Each of these activities was lovingly shared on social media and within her group of friends, transforming the image of Mrs. Elizabeth from just a mother waiting for a call into a warm, dynamic, and lively woman full of energy. The positive results were immediate. Instead of being indifferent, her children began to contact her more often to ask about her book recommendations, travels, and her informal art teaching job. They actively invited her to join weekend trips or ask for her advice on personal projects. No longer did they see her as needy for affection. They began to admire and respect her more, viewing her as a role model for independence and happiness. Ultimately, this action marks the final establishment of boundaries. You are not just the parent of your children, but also an independent individual with your passions and values. When your children see you living happily, with purpose and independence, they will willingly offer you genuine care, respect, and love, not because you need them, but because they recognize that you are a worthy, admirable person.